Travel on a shoestring. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here with a pair of Vans shoelaces. And our idiom, our expression today is travel on a shoestring. I thought with a lot of people traveling, at least in the United States, today and over this past weekend, it was sort of an appropriate idiom to explore the meaning of. And this is an idiom that I understood what it means, but I never really knew where it came from. It means, of course, to travel cheaply, to travel around as economically as you possibly can. And this has a lot of ties to our business. We'll talk about in a minute. But where does this idiom, where does this expression come from? It's really from the beginning of the 20th century when, and probably much earlier than that, but in the United States, in New York City, poor immigrants were had to barter with or sell small trinkets and small items. And often they would sell shoelaces, needles, and pots and small things to survive, to get by. That's where it became popular in the United States. They think there's some tie between wandering peddlers selling small trinkets, such as shoelaces and pots and strings, for a little bit of money to get by. And they traveled around. Reminds me of gypsies. I guess I think of gypsies when I think of traveling on a shoestring, or traveling around camping, or traveling around in ways that are as inexpensive as you possibly can, so that you can travel and see the world, but it doesn't cost you a lot of money. So this one came, they think that the tie between shoestrings and shoelaces comes from traveling, wandering peddlers and wandering salesmen, traveling salesmen. So I think this is a really interesting idiom in that I, over the course of my life, have had the opportunity to travel extravagantly as well as traveling as economically as possible. We camped for a lot of years with the kids when they were growing up and we were getting started in our different businesses and careers. And I remember going on a trip to Texas with one of my sisters, and I had $30 in my wallet for a week-long trip to Texas. Luckily, I had my airline ticket paid for, so we flew down, and then we went around and we did a bunch of activities that didn't cost hardly any money. We rode bikes, we walked, we saw touristy things, but we just didn't buy a lot of the trinkets and stuff that they're selling to the tourists in those areas. But those are some of the most fun, creative vacations that I've ever been on. The same is true of our businesses. Often when we're starting our businesses, we have to, I think of bootstrapping and traveling on a shoestring as different ways of financing different activities, right? So a lot of us, when we started our business, we didn't have a big pile of cash or a big pile of money or investor funding to create the businesses that we wanted. So we were finding ways to do things to solve problems economically, and then as resources become available, we can invest in processes and systems and automation and things to improve and grow and supersize our business. I would love to know your experience with traveling on a shoestring. Have you ever gone backpacking through Europe, or always wanted to do something like that? I always wanted to do the Andiamo Trail, things like that. I probably said there's not enough bathrooms along the way. So have you traveled on a shoestring? Have you had an experience that taught you a lot? Because the thing about limited resources that I think is so powerful for us is it forces us to get creative. It forces us to solve problems in ways that we would never otherwise solve them. And I'm, of course, talking above board legal, ethical, and moral ways of solving problems, but it gets us to think outside the box of what's always been done and look for new solutions. And that's one of the best ways we can serve our business as well as our customers and the whole rest of the world. So share in the comments below your experience or thoughts or feelings about this particular idiom, traveling on a shoestring. If you've ever done it, share that too. I'm going to sure be reflecting on my past trips and past vacations and past travels over this day and probably a few days beyond, since it's fun to go back and reminisce and remember the things that we've gained from the lessons that we've learned through the challenges that we've had in our life. And usually traveling on a shoestring means that we have a challenge with our finances and we're figuring out creative ways to do what we want to do without having all the answers right up front. And guess what? We never have all the answers right up front. All right, have an absolutely amazing day. I will be with you tomorrow with another interesting idiom. What does it mean? Where does it come from? And how can you apply it to your business and your life? Take care.